this is Ren, and welcome back to Pastel Marshmallow ASMR. I hope you guys all had a good new year. Welcome to my first video of 2022, the year that I'm hoping is going to be better than last year. I'm going for less of a pastel vibe today and more of a forest princess fairy vibe. I've got my monarch butterfly painting behind me to suit the theme of the video, because for today's video I am going to be reading you guys a book on flower fairies and also a book on trolls, so this is more of a fantasy themed video. But yeah, I'm gonna grab our first fairy tale themed book and then we will get started. Okay, so our first fairy tale book is called How to Find Flower Fairies. Did anybody have a book like this as a kid? They were pretty popular. They were ones on pirates, I think vampires, dragons, a lot of different fantasy creatures. And they were all always beautiful. And you can see this one has a bit of a reflective cover piece. It shows a fairy poking its head in and out of a tree, but it's a little bit hard to see. But it's got this beautiful gilded gold color and green and mushrooms, and this part is a little bit scratchy. So I'm going to open it up and read a little bit to you guys. I'm not going to read the full thing, but we'll sample it together. Okay. So it says, How to Find Flower Fairies. Research completed by Cicely Mary Barker. So she's the one who's collected this research on flower fairies. And the thing that I love about these books is that they have little pop-ups that you can open. And this one is a photographic album with pictures of where she's conducted her research. But it's a beautiful book. And let me flip her through a little bit for you guys to the first magical surprise. Oh, look at that. This is a pop-up book. And we've got a pop-up that says fairy houses are cleverly concealed. And there's a fairy house shielded in that little book there. So the first place that you can find flower fairies is in the treetops. In the treetops, careful observation has led me to believe that treetops are favorite places for fairies to make their homes. And I have discovered that the oak is a particularly favorable location. The mighty oak lives for hundreds of years and has provided a safe home for many generations of tree fairies. Indeed, its leafy foliage makes an excellent shelter for a fairy house. And it's got a little bit of information on how to spot a tree fairy. How to spot a tree fairy in this little book right here with little illustrations. Use your eyes and ears. Use your ears as well as your eyes. On windy days, the fairies love to perch at the end of branches, enjoying the sensation of the wind blowing all around them. If you listen carefully, you might hear their tinkling place to spot flower fairies is the forest floor. Some fairies prefer the security of being on the ground, and it is here at the foot of the ancient oak that I have discovered another favorite dwelling place, the forest floor. Fairies require their homes to be cleverly concealed. A hollow in an old tree stump can be transported into the perfect abode. Transformed, I think, not transported. This book is written in cursive. Very small cursive. It's a little hard to read at times, so please forgive me. But yeah, look, in the pop-up it says, look for hidden entrances. Fairy steps are crafted from wings. Can you see a trail of fairy dust? Our next pop-up picture is a beautiful bed of flowers. The next place you can find flower fairies is in your garden. Flower beds are a perfume paradise for fairies that desire beauty above all else. Every flower has its own fairy to care for it, which explains why most of my own fairy encounters have taken place in the garden. Flower fairies wear outfits fashioned from fallen petals. If by dressing to impersonate the flowers that surround them, fairies may flutter by unseen. So this is where the particularly vain fairies live. And they are just beautiful. Our next pop-up is a grove of trees with some fairies nestled inside. Because the next place you can find flower fairies is by the wayside. The hedgerows, commonly situated by the wayside, are very safe places for fairies to live. Their thick, dense greenery contains a wealth of hidey holes and secret places. Many countryside hedgerows are hundreds of years old and contain large established communities of fairies. But as always, they will do their very best to hide from you. There's some blackberries, some butterflies, and a fairy hiding in the middle. It is a pond scene with lily pads and water lilies. Because the last place you can find flower fairies is the marsh. Past expeditions have led to my discovery that the misty world of the marshlands is the most revered location in the fairy kingdom. Fairies that live here wish to be close as possible to their king and queen. King Cup and Queen of the Meadow. Few humans venture to the marshlands, and should you visit, great care must be taken here. But the rewards may be ample, especially if you're lucky enough to happen upon the fairy monarchs themselves. If you look very closely, and I know it's hard to see with my camera, there's a little hole in there where you can see the king and queen fairy. Oh, sorry, there is one more pop-up. And it is a pop-up photo album of her research. And it says that her research was published in the Sussex Herald newspaper. Isn't this book just so beautiful? I find pop-up books so enchanting even at my age. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm sorry if I'm not the greatest at showing the pop-ups up. Someday I'll get a camera with a tripod and this will be a lot easier. I wanted to read this to you guys because I'm a big fan of fairies. Probably one of my favorite fantasy creatures, or not fantasy creatures, depending on what you believe is the Fae. And yeah, I just thought this would be a lovely story to read you guys. So I have one more fantasy book for you guys today that I'm going to grab for us. It is Brian and Wendy Froud's Trolls. It's got a glossy cover with a troll on the front. And it is from the co-creator of the international bestseller Faeries, which I do not have that book, but I would like to get someday. My partner brought this home for me and I was so excited. I love books with fantasy illustrations, so this was a real treat for me. On the front cover, we have a wise-looking old troll, and he's got a ram skull on his belt, and this very funny, dull-looking owl on his hand. But yeah, let me do a bit of tracing for you guys. So the title is simply Trolls. This is not a pop-up book, it is just a regular book, but let me open it up for you guys. Beneath the rock, the trolls sleep. Amongst the trees, the trolls watch. Under the bridge, the trolls wait. Up the mountain, the trolls sing. In the storm, the trolls howl. And in the threshold of night, the trolls come. That would terrify me as a kid, I'm positive. We've got some fearsome looking troll sketches on this page. Here's one of my favorite illustrations in this book. It's just beautifully detailed. We've got all sorts of creatures here. All sorts, all shapes and sizes. And the description reads, Grandfather Ona sang the songs of protection. He sang them in the evening twilight, and he sang them in the light of day. As the new moon set, and the old night passed into dawning, Grandfather Ona drew protective lines around little Starling, his grandchild. His sweet troll maiden. The goblin crept closer, waving his long arms, weaving a spell of sleep over the watchers. That's just a little excerpt from the story. And we've also got this beautiful picture of the troll maiden on a log over the bridge. Isn't she just gorgeous? On this page we have some more troll illustrations, and there's a little bit of lore about trolls written. Bridges have always been associated with trolls, such as the story of the 3 billy goats and the troll under the bridge. A very bad troll indeed. But not all trolls associated with bridges are bad. Trolls, with their empathy towards stone, are naturally drawn to stone bridges, where they, for the most part, become a part of the bridge itself. Supporting the structure, making it safe for those who cross it. Aw, benevolent trolls. A bridge will often have a resident troll tucked away under its arch, lending strength to the structure. Of course, there are exceptions, and the ones who have given trolls such a bad name, lurkers. There is no other word for them. Trolls who lurk. lurking under bridges more than anything else. A lurking troll is usually a dim-witted troll, a greedy troll, a troll with nothing better to do. Some trolls are so enthusiastic about bridges that they make a hat in the shape of their favorite bridge. That's adorable. And wear it to troll gatherings. These are warm and snug and very popular in the winter. And we've got a funny little fellow in the middle here with his bridge hat. Very sweet. I don't know about you guys, but I have a strong fondness for fantasy creatures who are misunderstood, or it may seem bad, but they're not all bad, and have a sweet hidden side. We have another sweet troll friend on this page, and he is called the Flower Collector, and I'll read you a little bit about him. Sensitive beings. The sensitivity of trolls is well known. The larger, clumsier, and in most cases less quick-witted trolls will cry for almost no reason at all. Can relate. The Flower Collector is a good example of this behavior. He is large and exceedingly clumsy, yet within his hulking form beats the heart of a poet with a penchant for flowers. I love this guy. This troll lumbers into flower-strewn meadows at dawn, picking fragile blossoms and holding them tightly in his hand until he reaches his home, where, upon loosening his grip, he reveals every time a handful of crushed flowers. The troll writes forlorn poetry about the fragility of flowers that he tearfully reads at every troll gathering. He is often avoided by trolls of happier disposition. I've turned down the sensitivity of my mic because you might be able to hear my heater. That's just come on. I hope it's not too bothersome, but there might be a bit of background noise. My apologies. I just want to finish off this telling by reading you a little bit about the artist Brian Froud. And then we'll finish off with some tippity-tappities. Brian Froud is the most acclaimed fairy artist of our time. He is the international best-selling author and co-artist with Alan Lee of Faeries, and has written many other books, including The Heart of the Fairy Oracle, Lady Coddington's Press Fairy Book, Good Fairies / Bad Fairies, and The Fairies of Oracle. He has won numerous awards, including the Hugo Award for Best Original Artwork. He is the conceptual designer of Jim Henson's classic film, The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. So if you recognize the art from this book, that's probably what it's from. And Labyrinth is a film I love. I actually have yet to watch The Dark Crystal. It's definitely something that would be up my alley, so I will get around to that soon, probably, since there's not much to do in this COVID winter of ours. His wife, Wendy Froud, is a storyteller, doll artist, sculptor, and puppet maker. She worked as a sculptor and puppet builder for Jim Henson for many years. Among her accomplishments, she sculpted Jen and Kira for The Dark Crystal and fabricated Yoda. Oh, I didn't know that. For The Empire Strikes Back. Her dolls and figures are hardly sought after and are in many prestigious collections in the world. The Frouds live in Devon, England. But yeah, absolutely gorgeous book. I would definitely recommend. And it makes some nice tapping sounds on the cover for sure. But yeah, I'd definitely recommend getting a copy of this if fairies and fantasy is something that you're interested in. Here's the back cover. And I'll slip off the jacket for you guys just to take a look at what's underneath. An equally gorgeous cover with another troll friend. in the new year. There were a lot of errors with this because reading a book and opening it, there is some room for slippage of the hands, especially with the pop-up book. And I'm also worried that my heater is going to ruin the background noise for the rest of this video, but hopefully it's not too bad. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys for joining me with this fairy tale telling. If you guys enjoy storybook reading, let me know, because I can do more of this for you guys for sure. But again, I hope you're all having a good start to the new year, and that this year is a magical one for you. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me for story time with Pastel Marshmallow ASMR.